Welcome back to the channel. I'm 318 Will Run. I've seen some pretty heated discussions between some pretty knowledgeable car people about the Mopar 8 3/4 rear end and green bearings versus tapered bearings. What I'd like to do is take the time to share my opinion, take it as unprofessional advice. Let's get started. Mopar 8 3/4 rear ends could be found in A bodies, B bodies, E bodies, C bodies, pickup trucks. If you don't know what all of them are, basically everything Dodge, Plymouth, Chrysler made, basically from 1974 on down. You could find them in different and various vehicles. They came from the factory with a tapered bearing with an adjusting nut. This system was proven. Many of these cars went 150, 200,000 miles. No issues. You never had to check your adjustment back here. You could drive 100,000 miles and never have to adjust it. It's a pretty good system. Worked really good. But I would also like to add that the green bearings have been used in common rear ends and gone 150, 200,000 also. Some of the rear ends you might recognize. 9-inch Ford, 8 1/4 rear end Mopar, amongst others. Yet a lot of the people go to the green bearing, which is not a tapered bearing. My opinion is, if you got a 70 Imperial or a 68 Satellite, everything's going good for you, but you hear a howl in the back end on one side, and you want to replace that bearing, my suggestion is pull that axle out, have a new Timken bearing put on. It's a proven system. It works good. You don't have to take off your drive shaft, drop your center section or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward. Your adjuster's free. Spray it with some brake cleaner and it just moves like new, and you can adjust that end play to 10 thousandths or whatever you're going to set it at. Nobody really argues that point. It's a good system. So when is the green bearing the right bearing to use? Well, everybody agrees if you're going to build a drag car or a pro street and you're going to run a spool, you have to run the green bearings. You can't run the tapered bearings because a spool isn't going to have the button, and I'll show you that in a minute, in the center that you're going to set your end play off of axles. The axle's end play off of. You're not gonna have that button in a spool. Here you can look inside there and see that little shiny button inside there. And if you're gonna run the tapered bearings, you need that so you don't adjust the axle end plate off the other axle. So you're gonna have to run green bearings if you're gonna run a spool. And nobody argues that point. The argument is a daily driver, or something that's a street strip, gonna see a lot of Dairy Queen runs or car cruises, yet again, you know. So people go out, they got an Aspen or a Duster and they want to put an 8 3/4 in it. They go out and find the rear end they want in sitting behind a barn or underneath a car that's sunk in the mud. They get that rear end, and here's what they find oftentimes. They find rusty bearings, and I don't know how well you can see this, but a rusty adjuster. Here is certainly a better look at it out here. You can see the rust and how it's all in these fine threads of this adjusting nut, and you can just see the bearings are shot. So, I mean, in some cases you take this off, you might even have to replace the whole axles. You can try taking it off and soaking it in solvents and solutions and vinegar and anything else you want. But a lot of times you got to replace it, and you can buy it new. But here's the deal. By the time you buy the pieces for the adjuster, if you can't free it up, you got to buy the Timken tapered bearings. You're going to have a lot more money than if you just go to green bearings. A lot more money. The tapered Timken bearings are more expensive than green bearings. And you don't get this adjusting nut for $5 either. So when you get that situation and you're thinking about it and what route to go, many choose the green bearings to eliminate the adjuster, and you're going to run the green bearings, and it's cheaper down the road. If you want to throw a set of 456s on a spool in, you're already set up for it. And then the people come out and say, but you can't drive it daily. You can. A lot of people are. And here's the problem. The green bearings used to not come with this snap ring on it. And they didn't allow for axle tube housing imperfections or tolerances, and they would wear out rather quickly, and they got a bad name. If you buy green bearings for your local cruiser, make sure you get the MO-400. The MO-400 has the snap ring, and this setup allows for tolerances of the rear end housing and that setup. And here's just a little closer look at what you get in the green bearing kit. The collar, the seal, flange and gasket. And here it is with the large snap ring. The other ones, I forget what their part number are. I don't buy them. RA? Is that right? I don't know. But it's not MO. It's a different part number. It starts with an R, and it actually has this without the rings here. Without these rings, it's got a stamp pressed fitting, and that's the one that gives a lot of people in daily drivers issues. So a lot of people out there running these on the street. I have these in drag truck on a spool, have to. I also have them in my 76 Duster. I don't drive it a lot, but no issues yet. So, in my opinion, it just makes sense to go the cheaper way if you're putting together a rear end like this without buying all the more expensive bearings and the fitting. And you can go that way. That's a good way too. I'm not arguing you can't. I'm just saying that this works. Dr. Diff doesn't sponsor my channel. Dr. Diff, I don't think he even watches it. That's fine. But I buy my bearings through Dr. Diff. He sells them cheap. He sells the MO ones. A lot of Mopar performance ones have the pressed fit and not the snap rings. And you don't want that if you're gonna drive it around and put, you know, a few thousand miles a year on it. So that's my take on it. I hope this made sense to you. Help somebody out a little bit. Make a decision. Till next time, be safe.